Good evening. It is 5:30. I will call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Fargo Board of Education on Tuesday, August 9th. We will start by inviting you to stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would look for a motion for approval of the agenda. Jim.
I move adoption of the agenda with the addition of the HR addendum that was located at our workstation to be added to item 6D.
Second, please.
Okay, moved by Jim, seconded by Robin. Any discussion? Great. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, agenda is approved. Thank you. We'll move on to the recognition of the audience. I will briefly read this statement. At this time, the board will hear comments from the public. We ask that each speaker who has signed up to address the board state their name and home school district for the record. Speakers must refrain from using this forum to criticize or complain about a specific employee or student by name. Vulgar or profane language will not be tolerated. The board is interested in your comments and will listen carefully, but is not obligated to respond to or debate issues in this forum. Should you desire a written response to a specific question, you may request it. This evening, each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. Upon conclusion of the allotted time, a chime will sound and the speaker is asked to conclude. If necessary, a final chime will sound 15 seconds later, signifying the end of the speaker's time at the podium. I will now call our first speaker to the podium, which is Devin Stachinsky.
Yeah, I got it. This ain't my first rodeo. Apparently it is my first rodeo. Anyway, the truth will not set you free if not delivered with hope. There's a quote from someone who has a great deal of knowledge about how our country operates. To move on, in a similar vein, about hope, Francis Bellamy wrote the Pledge of Allegiance in 1892. 5 years before that, Colonel George Balch, a Civil War veteran, wrote something similar. His went along the lines of, "We give our heads and hearts to God and our country, one language, one flag." And I can see why Bellamy's was made the Pledge of Allegiance in 1923 and not Balch's. Though the sentiment reigns true. One country, one flag, one nation. Whatever God you pick to worship under it. I know that there's the thought that bringing back the Pledge of Allegiance at the school board meetings was political. I could see that argument. However, Robin and Tracy, you were both correct in the governance meeting that the land acknowledgement statement also falls along the same lines, and that is a political statement. Jim, you are incorrect. If you can't see that those both follow the same logical train, then I don't know what to tell you. So, if you're going to do away with the Pledge of Allegiance, you better do away with the land acknowledgement statement because they fall in the exact same vein. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. Our next speaker this evening is Cassie Schmidt.
Hi, my name is Cassie Schmidt. I am speaking on behalf of Let Parents Decide That. And I would like to request a written response to my question. So on the March 22nd meeting, where the Pledge of Allegiance was adopted to be said before each regular board meeting, Seth, you talked about your religious beliefs and that being one of your biggest reasons for not wanting to have the pledge stated during the meetings. And then that was actually after you had asked for an adoption of a policy where the votes from the school board members always being in the best interest of the district and not being based on personal beliefs. You also stated that you received emails calling you a communist, and we actually have had a parent that had reached out to Fargo Public Schools that had asked for any emails with the mention of the word communist that had been sent to you just to see if that was actually the case. And according to Anne Marie, that was not able to be found. So I'm wondering where those emails came from, I guess, where they were sent to, where you were called a communist, and also how you believe that taking the pledge away from the board meetings would be in the best interest of the district at this time versus just leaving it in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie. Our next speaker who signed up is David Paulson.
Thank you. Madam President, before you start my time, could I ask for a clarification? For the last 8 years, the speakers have been allowed 4 minutes. And now, when was the decision made to cut it to 3?
We do it based on how many people are signed up to speak this evening.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is David Paulson. I reside at 2321 17th Avenue South. Some of you were on the board at the time when I made the motion for the Pledge of Allegiance, and you might remember that the thing that prompted me was the fact that my grandson came home from a day of kindergarten and perfectly recited the pledge to his grandmother and me based on the fact that he'd heard it, he had repeated it so many times. Most of the children in our schools say the pledge on a regular basis. And when I started to do some research, many organizations, city and local governments and school boards say the pledge on a regular basis, and I felt that it was appropriate that we say it. At the time I made the motion, one person was strongly opposed, and that person is the one who made the motion now to have it rescinded. And the question arose as to why he had to stand to show his patriotism for the United States. And the fact that he did not believe in God made it difficult for him to say the pledge. We are misinterpreting the Pledge of Allegiance. The pledge isn't a show of our patriotism. It's an affirmation of our commitment and our loyalty to a greater cause, and that greater cause is freedom. We are lucky enough to live in the greatest free nation in the history of the world. And those of us who have lived here our entire lives take that very much for granted. But you may ask one of our newest citizens who endured tremendous hardship to come to the United States, what is so terribly alluring about our nation? We have opportunities here that are not allowed anywhere in the world. And we have hundreds of thousands of migrants who appear every year attempting to get into the country and become citizens, and who proudly stand as part of their citizenship rights and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I hope when the vote comes up tonight that you will reaffirm your commitment and your loyalty to the United States of America. And all I ask is that if you don't feel that way, that you have the respect for the others to stand and politely acknowledge their rights to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Next speaker is Carrie Lee.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Lee. I live at 6190 Martins Way South. I am a parent of 2 FPS Davies High School students and 1 Davies graduate. In August 1989, I completed basic training and served in the National Guard for 15 years. My father served 32 years in the National Guard. My grandfather was in the U.S. Navy, and my great-uncle helped liberate St. Lo, France during World War II. We all served our country to give back to our country, the country that provides us freedoms, such as access to education. Thank you for passing the resolution for attendees to have the option to say the pledge at the school board meetings. Please keep this. Our district celebrates and recognizes students who model citizenship. As adults, we can model citizenship too. Please continue to offer the Pledge of Allegiance at board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. The next speaker is Brad Schaefer.
I'd like to thank Mr. Holden. He responded to a Facebook Messenger last night, and I don't throw stuff out there on Facebook for everybody to see, but you did respond, and I appreciate that. I don't know a lot about you, but you, I guess what I learned tonight, you don't believe in God, but it really doesn't matter. He believes in you, and you need to understand that. One question I have I don't know if your attorney is here, but can we do this every month? I mean, can we rescind it? Next month, vote not to rescind it? I don't know. I guess if you were asking for a public response, I'd like to know that, because that's pretty ridiculous I mean, you waste a lot of people's time tonight, because I got other places to be tonight. But I said, hey, this is stupid. It's ridiculous to even talk about this. I mean, it's like somebody's wanting a lot of attention here. What it really reminded me of is, if you remember the WKRP episode with it's Les Nessman, he just got so ridiculous, wanting people to call into his talk show. Nobody's listening to him. And so he gets on his talk show and he says, well, what do you think about this? Finally, Les got to the point of, well, what do you guys think about killing baby puppies? The keyboard, it lit up, Les got attention. Mr. Holman, you're getting some attention. Your name's in the paper. It'll probably be in the paper tomorrow. God bless you. But, I don't know. A normal meeting is probably a third of this, maybe. So you got some people's attention. And I just don't know. I mean, are you really going to vote on this tonight? To rescind something you voted on? I don't know. It's just ridiculous. I love the words to the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you guys want to stand again, we can say it again. I pledge allegiance to the flag right there behind you, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. Yep, you can't deny there's a God. And you guys can finish the rest of it. I guess I'm having a Joe Biden moment here, but I just can't believe we're here. I cannot believe we're here talking about this. Robin, I know you a little bit. You guys got to take some leadership. You've lost the public trust. And I'm not talking about COVID. COVID, good Lord, let's not start on that with this mask crap. But, I mean, yeah. Thank you for allowing us to talk.
Thank you, Brad. Our final speaker for the evening is Ryan Witterman. Sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly.
Close enough. I know he said that was enough about COVID, but that's basically my point is about in light of reading Deborah Birx's book and how she basically lied to the CDC and worked with the CDC to fudge guidance and work behind the scenes around the arm of the government to kind of get her vision of what COVID procedure goes. I hope in future that you do not go with the CDC until they work in better concert with that, and maybe take a different approach to COVID, given that it's, I'm not going to say a non-issue because it's certainly an issue for some people, regardless of regarding their health and other situations that might impact them individually. Just in light of her stuff, I would say working around what the CDC has said, or taking it with a grain of salt, is probably a wiser approach. It would look like a better, more assertive approach to leadership. And from my point of view, as someone who's, obviously I have no kids, but I do kind of have an axe, or not an axe to grind, but a stake in the game, so to speak, in that I have friends with children in school right now and would like to see them at their fullest potential in school and socially, with regards to COVID policy and whatnot. That's all I got.
Thank you, Ryan. That concludes our public comment section. We will move on to staff reports. Our first report this evening is an Esser report. It comes to us with memo number 13 by Tony Hughesby.
Hello, my name's Tony Hughesby. I'm the Esser Grant Coordinator for the district, which is a temporary role intended to really be a liaison for all stakeholders that are involved in the planning for and spending of our Esser, our COVID-related money. So there was a report put out last week. Hopefully most of you saw it, and I'll be covering a lot of that same information tonight. So I'm gonna, for the sake of time, probably move fairly quickly. But there will be a chance for questions at the end. So if anyone has anything to ask, we will try to address that at the end. In the report that you got last week, this table was in there. This is really all of the COVID-related funding that was available to the district. In that report, I highlighted the ones that were closed as of the creation of that report, and that pretty much included everything down to Esser. And so we kind of talk about Esser 1, Esser 2, and Esser 3, and those are really the active funding options at this point. And so you'll hear a little bit of talk probably about the acts that those that funding came from. So Esser 1 was part of the CARES Act. It was, I think, a little over $3 million. That expires, as you can see, next month, and we have until December to liquidate that. But I would say most of that money was allocated or spent before I came on board last September, so I really haven't had much involvement with the spending of Esser 1. Esser 2 and 3 then are really the bigger pots. Esser 2 is about 13 million. That expires at the end of this school year, actually a year from September, I guess. And then we have until December of that year to liquidate Esser 2. And the district, for the most part, kind of from an accounting standpoint, has tried to use Esser 2 to fund any non-personnel, non-pay items in general. And then Esser 3, we've used primarily to fund things that involve people and pay. Esser 3 then is the really big one, the ARP Act. That's about $30 million. We have beyond, so a year beyond this year. So this 23-24 school year, all the money that we're gonna spend would need to be allocated by September, and then we would have until that December to spend it. To liquidate it. In the report, I just wanted to give a little bit of a visual of what that breakdown looks like. In the report, it was all the COVID-related funding. In this presentation, you're looking at basically the big three, as I would call them, COVID 1, 2, and 3. And then there's some special ed money that's a little bit of an offshoot from Esser 3, part of that ARP Act. And so that is there. And as you can see, it's a lot of money. The district is kind of in this constant balancing act of you want to spend the money and have the greatest impact in the time that we have with that money, but we also have to consider what we would refer to as a fiscal cliff. In 2 years, that funding will be gone. So we're always kind of having that conversation. Should this be Esser funded? Should it not be? People that are Esser funded, those positions are going to go away, or we'll have to figure out a way, where to fund those elsewhere. And same for licensing of software, equipment, all of those things. So it's kind of a constant balancing act of how do we have the greatest impact, but not create a major fiscal cliff in a couple of years. You're going to hear some talk of learning loss, and essentially what that means, as you can guess, it's the impact of COVID or the impact of school closures and lost instructional time on students, not only academically, but also learning loss is used when we're talking about social emotional learning as well, and social emotional well-being of staff as well. So we were required to spend some of ESSER 2 on projects intended to address learning loss. It really could be up to us. In ESSER 3, there was a minimum of 20% that needed to be allocated to projects intended to address learning loss. ESSER 2, as you can see, as of June, we're at 51%. And really a lot of the things that we purchased with that ESSER 2, things like intervention programs and things like that intended to address learning loss with students. And then ESSER 3, we spent a lot of that money on people. And the majority of the ESSER funded positions in the district are intended to work directly with students to help address learning loss, tutors, interventionists, things like that, as well as some, as you'll see, some mental health services, and or staff that are intended to work with other teachers to help them improve Tier 1 instruction. So I just, in that report, again, I gave you just kind of a snippet of some of the specific projects, but I just wanted to quickly go over the types of projects that we're using ESSER money to fund. So personnel is one of them, and as you can see, a lot of those positions, other than positions like mine, are intended to pay for staff that can directly impact learning loss. I'm going to talk a little bit about that One for All project. That one's a little unique, and I'll talk about that a little bit here towards the end. Resources, so things like software, curriculum, and other programs. Catalyst, you're probably going to hear more about Catalyst. That is a really big initiative in the district, and it's having a really positive impact. It's a program that is designed to create a real positive classroom environment and help teachers create an environment where they can focus more on instruction, not as much on like behavior management, and help students really feel connected in that classroom. So it's a really positive initiative, and there's been a lot of good results there. Yukiro is a district-wide initiative that is training and equipment that's designed to help de-escalate potentially traumatic situations without using restraint or seclusion. BAR is a program that was implemented at Fargo South last year using some other funding, one-year funding, and a little bit of ESSER. And I think, if I remember correctly, Fargo South was the only school in the state to implement BAR last year. I don't know if I'm correct on that, but the state is starting to recognize that program and provide other funding for that. But we are funding that partly with ESSER. And that's building assets, removing risk, I believe is what BAR stands for. But it's about really focusing on the highest need students and families and creating kind of a team approach to that. So you get counselors and teachers and administrators and everyone having discussions about the students that really need the most attention, and then devising a plan on how to provide those, provide what is needed to help those students. Technology, another area, as you can imagine, with more staff, more need for laptops, with more devices off-site in homes. There's a need to be able to provide some sort of device management and communication. Catalyst is a big one. Canvas was a big one. That was the learning management system that allowed teachers to be able to provide content to students when they were not in a building. The CPEN readers, those are kind of neat. That's a special ed tool, a tool that was purchased with some of the special ed funds from ESSER 3, and that's a scanning tool that provides text to speech, and so it really supports independent reading. So some really neat tools there. Facilities and safety, as you can imagine, especially early on when there was probably a greater or more immediate COVID concern, things like protective equipment and tables for spacing. But since then, it's been a little bit more about air quality. There were some robotic floor scrubbers purchased for the high schools that freed up the custodial staff to commit more time to cleaning high traffic areas. So that freed them up to do that. So that was the high schools. And then mental health. The student wellness and family facilitator positions were mentioned on the personnel slide as well. Those are staff that were funded and hired in the district, and then some of the others, there are contracts that we are paying for with ESSER for additional mental health services. And then there was some training for our internal counseling staff as well. In that report, I'm sorry, I'll stop saying in that report. So I did talk a little bit about block grants, and what block grants are, it's just a term that we use internally, and it's an allocation that each building received from Esser to try to address needs specific to their building. So last year, every building got $20,000. This year, it was increased to $30,000 with a little bit narrower scope. They're asked this year to use that for personnel, people, either in the form of additional staff or an overload for existing staff to perform work that's designed or intended to address the needs in their building, you know, hopefully learning loss type needs, or those block grants can also be used for professional development around an existing initiative like Catalyst, and some of the buildings are doing that. There's some types of training around Catalyst that aren't a part of the broader program, and so some of the buildings are choosing to do that for their buildings. So around block grants, I put a survey out for building administrators and asked them to just provide some feedback on what they were seeing, kind of the pros and cons, what worked, what didn't. And so that's what you're seeing on your screens right now. I won't read every word to you, but for the sake of time, I just tried to bold some of the high points. I can give you a little awkward silence to read those, or I can kind of keep moving. And if you need access to this presentation, if you don't already have it, I can certainly provide that as well. So I have a few slides with this information on there. That top one I will mention, the high schools use some of their Esser block grants to extend an online opportunity through June. So students could finish credits that they may not have been able to finish, or in some cases even graduate. So that was something the high schools used their block grant money for. And then with the other projects, specifically those intended to address learning loss, I asked the same thing. I asked those project owners to fill out a survey and provide some feedback. So again, I just tried to bold some of the main points there, and you can take a look at that. And I have a couple slides, I guess, with some responses. I'll mention that bottom one. You know, initially you're thinking, okay, the coaches were hired with Esser money and intended to coach other teachers, and this one is saying that they kind of got pulled in some other directions. And I will say on the positive side of that, staffing has continued to be an issue across the country, and consistent staffing in a building, there's value in that. So the coaches were a pool of staff members that were able to be tapped when needed to be in a classroom if that was necessary. And one of the other projects I'll just mention, because I'm talking about that, is we tried to have a consistent pool of long-term subs available as well. So just to provide some consistent staffing when that became an issue in a building. In this one, you can see just some other comments on specific projects from those project owners. Our science facilitator was really a champion for evidence-based reporting, which is another initiative in the district. So just thought I'd bold that one there. Catalyst, as I mentioned, is a pretty big initiative in the district, and I've heard really nothing but positive things. I've actually had an opportunity to do some classroom observations myself, and I will say, even though the building administrator told me it's not just Catalyst at play here, Catalyst was a big part of it, and I was really amazed at what I was seeing in the classrooms, just how the environment was much more, there was just a lot more focus on learning and a lot less managing of behaviors in the classroom. It was really a positive environment, and there were some activities where students really had an opportunity to share and connect, and so I was very impressed with what I saw. So we have a few, so I guess I'll say, I didn't put these out, the Catalyst, the people that are facilitating the Catalyst program itself asked for some impact statements from teachers that had gone through some of the Catalyst training and were implementing it in their classrooms. Again, just tried to bold some things here. You'll see a theme. The theme is I had more time to focus on student relationships and instruction, and had to focus less time on behavior management. And I think this last one's really a powerful statement. You know, teacher burnout has been a major concern across the country, and I thought that was a really big statement there, that this teacher was seriously considering leaving the profession, but Catalyst changed that. So. Okay, the All for One initiative is kind of a unique project in the sense that it's designed to increase knowledge of our general ed, well, not just general ed teachers, but general ed teachers, as well as maybe people that work in a certain area of special ed education or with our English learners, an opportunity for them to learn more about specific areas of special ed and English learner instruction. There was kind of a self-study component and then the exam, which allowed staff to add an endorsement to their license. And then there was also some professional development in June around this as well. And you can see there was some really good participation. The idea behind it is that to have more well-rounded staff, maybe create an environment where it's more all students belong to all of us rather than these students are my students, those students are your students, and so on. And really strengthen Tier 1 instruction because general ed teachers have maybe a little bit better understanding of some of those areas of special ed or the English learner students that they teach. And then really kind of creates a pool of teachers that not only have a little bit more knowledge, but maybe an interest in working in that area because special ed and English EL teachers, really, those are the positions that districts struggle to fill. So the idea was that we could really help alleviate a pretty major issue for the district with this project. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the data. If you've been on the board, you're probably familiar with what is out there, the slight increase in math, a slight drop in reading. But I just wanted to show some of the data to just say, these are some of the things that were considered when planning for and proposing projects that are to be funded with Esser, and then the same type of data that we'll use when we want to evaluate the effectiveness of what we've done. But I will also say that rather than looking just at overall trends, the discussion has become a little bit more about who is it working for and why is it working for them, and how can we use that knowledge to maybe improve for others. So for example, in this screenshot here, the overall trend is an uptick in math, but there are some student groups that did not experience an increase. And where this is a downward trend, there were 3 student groups that actually showed an increase in reading. So why is it working for them, and what can we do with that knowledge? So I'm going to just kind of skip through these because it's the reading and math data for the other grade bands. Same overall general trend. Attendance data, there's a kind of not a big project, but a project around attendance. And Tamara Usselman's kind of leading that, and she's really excited about the team that she's put together to address this. I think I mentioned EduClimber earlier, maybe I skimmed over it, but EduClimber is a tool that the district is able to use to have some really good analytics and reporting capabilities around some of the data that we're able to gather and pull in, and attendance data is one of those things that we can use EduClimber for. And as you can see, in this first year coming off of major COVID disruption, it's probably not what we wanted to see in attendance. Throughout the year, we did see a drop in students that were attending 95% or above, but we also did see a decrease in the severe chronic absenteeism, so that's a win. But again, Tamara's pretty excited about the team she has together to continue work on this project. This next one's just a screenshot of EduClimber. I just wanted to kind of show you what that tool looks like. And this is attendance data. And just so you kind of have an idea how we can dial down and do a little bit of a deep dive into things, this is really valuable for building administrators and that attendance team as well. So again, just wanted you to have a glance at that. The SWIFTs that I mentioned earlier, I guess this is, good and bad. We're seeing increased needs. SWIFTs really the student wellness and family facilitators. Their main role is to help families in need find resources that are available to them and help break down barriers that might be getting in the way of them accessing those resources. So we are seeing an increased need, but because we Esser funded a couple positions with Esser, we were able to bring more staff into that and hopefully can meet some of those needs for families. This is a breakdown of some of the mental health services. Those top three are per counseling session. That bottom one, Nexus, that's targeted case management, and that one funded 4 social worker positions that could dedicate time specifically to Fargo Public Schools students. So in closing, we're constantly looking at the projects, asking project owners to kind of evaluate what's working, what isn't, what can be tweaked, does it continue, does it expand, and having those conversations in kind of an ongoing basis. We did struggle filling positions last year, just like every other district in the country probably, but it looks like we're having a little more success kicking off this, what I refer to as the second year of Esser. For example, last year we had 3 school psych positions that went unfilled, and this year we've filled 2 of those 3 going into this next school year. So hopefully we're going to see a little more success in filling some of those positions. And a recent addition to ESSER funded positions is a recruiting position that will hopefully help address some of that, especially in the areas of special ed and English learner, EL instruction. And then finally, we'll be expanding some of the mental health services as well. So. And that is what I have for you on Esser. I have no idea how long I took, but in my office, it pretty consistently took me 18 to 20 minutes. So I think I went through it about 24 times, so.
It was the perfect amount. So thank you, Tony. Thank you for taking the time to be here. And I really enjoyed reading the quotes from our staff from the surveys. That was very impactful to get that personal touch. So I would look to board members for any questions or comments about the report. Yes, Nikki.
Thank you. Thank you for a great presentation. I was entranced by all the statistics. I would like to request a copy. I'm not sure if maybe it could be provided to Anne Marie, and maybe when she sends it out, would you share it with us? There was too much to write too quickly, so.
Yep, totally understand, and that's.
Good news, and I appreciated the comments as well from our staff. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion about the report? Okay, thank you for being here, Tony.
Thank you very much for your time.
Next on our agenda is the FEA report, and we have Grant here tonight.
Good evening. As FEA Vice President, I'm privileged to have a few minutes of your time tonight. I want to begin with congratulations to the 4 board members who were newly elected and had not previously served on the board. Congratulations, Robin, on your re-election as well. FEA aspires that our work will result in even better workplace conditions for our staff and thereby translate into even better learning conditions for our students. And so we look forward to having you join us in joining you alongside your work. To that end, there's a reminder. Kim Belgard, who's our president, asked me to remind you of the upcoming negotiations training that the board will sit with FEA to complete. That is Saturday, September 24th from 9 a.m. till noon, and it's over in the PD room here in the district office. Keep that on your calendar. My understanding is that it's your own expectation as a board that all 9 board members are in attendance, and FEA will work to match that with 9 FEA members as well. And then tonight, as we sit about 2 weeks away from the start of school, I've begun looking ahead to that and also been reflective of my time this summer. And I wanted to share a little bit about that. Not because you need to know about Grant Craft, but because some of the things that I've done are things that other teachers have done as well. And so my hope is that in sharing my own story, you get a good example of what other teachers have been doing this summer as well. It might help our community, it might help you understand what is really meant by that phrase that goes around that says teachers get the summers off. And you might find that that statement is only partially true because many teachers, it ends up looking a lot more like working from home. The very first thing that I think back to, and I had this out of order, but immediately after the school year ended was that All for One project where I think it was it 160 or 190 teachers engaged in 5 extra days of their summertime to be learning and engaging in professional opportunities. And so I participated in that, but many colleagues participated in that as well. For me, almost immediately after that, I had the opportunity to lead students on an international trip. And we got to see students really benefit from that experience as they got to like literally touch the things that we had been talking about in our curriculum and explore that new culture that they were immersing themselves in. And I'm not alone in that. Other teachers likely also led students, whether internationally or stateside, on travel experiences that were enriching to those students. At least for the international, I'm always advocating for something, so at least the international trips, I know those are not officially a part of the FPS programming, and it might be something that administration or the school board would want to take a look at, and the school system could officially tout that experience as part of our rigorous programming that we offer. When I returned from my international travel, I re-engaged in finishing up my master's program, which many other teachers either finished or began or continued their own master's program. We have a department that resides in this office space called the Department of Teaching and Learning. And for many teachers, teaching kind of stops in the summertime. But for most teachers, the learning does not. And so we hold those two in conjunction, the Department of Teaching and Learning. One of the ways that teachers continue learning, even if they're not enrolled in a formal program like a master's program, many teachers are continuing to take professional development courses through local or regional universities. I would venture a guess that educators completed hundreds of credit hours this summer. I would love the stat on that. I won't request it because I'm sure Doug and his team are getting inundated with all the transcripts from those credits as well. But maybe as things settle down, we'll get a real count on how many hours. I imagine it's an impressive total. I think it's important to note that those professional development credits are self-chosen. It allows teachers to decide what is their interest, what do they need, what can they use right now to better their profession. I think it allows us to implement best practices when it comes to professional development to be doing it in that way. Not for me, this is speaking for others, but many teachers don't quit teaching during the summertime. They continue on through things like summer school or working in other programs that are educational in nature, or perhaps just taking on some other job in the summertime as well. Additionally, there's the element of curriculum writing that many teachers engage in over the summertime because it provides us an extended period of time to get together with colleagues, to be able to sit together and use our expertise in our subject area to determine how are we going to have students work towards meeting those learning outcomes. Teachers using their summertime to support district initiatives like a push towards evidence-based reporting, EBR. Those are done in curriculum writing meetings, oftentimes that take place during the summer. And then we talked about staying the week after school got out. Many teachers are coming back early. The first day for professional development is, it could be 13 days away, a Monday. But many teachers will be back early, whether it's to work on rearranging their classrooms. At the end of the year, it's common practice in most buildings that classrooms kind of get all packaged up and put away so that deep cleaning can happen, which means at this time of the year, teachers are eager to get into their rooms and unpack all of that and get it reset for students. Many elementary teachers are returning early to do things like placement testing. The summertime they find allows for a better opportunity to get that all done without having to try to balance it alongside instruction and getting to know students on day one. And then, of course, I'm not going to say that it's all work. Like everybody else, summer for teachers means things like setting aside time for family, sitting out at the lake, taking trips, doing things that are important to rejuvenate throughout the year. And so educators have been busy this summer. That's what I hope is the takeaway from the FEA report tonight. And we'll continue to be busy this fall because we're always going to work to ensure that the student experiences in our classrooms are the very best that they can be, that the student learning environment is as best it can be, and that the teaching workplaces are as best as they can be. And so thank you for your support in the work that we're doing together.
Thank you for being here, Grant. Next is our superintendent report. Dr. Gandhi.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. Tomorrow is our annual board picnic that the board hosts for all of our summer staff and our staff that are on duty. So first and foremost, just thank you for that. We look forward to that event. It's always a fun event annually as well. It's August, so we're getting ready for the start of the school year. I know there's been a lot of conversations just around enrollment numbers are a big conversation, staffing is a big conversation around this time. So knowing that things are fluid and that they can change, just wanted to give you a quick update of where we are. As of right now, our district enrollment's at 11,206 students. As of Monday, from the information that Missy had shared with me in terms of staffing, we were still looking for 4 elementary teachers. And I think it was a comparable number for secondary as well. As I look at Bob, I know we had a couple teachers that also had an opportunity to take leadership positions in other districts, so we're extremely excited for them and being able to do that as well. The significant challenge for us right now continues to be staff across not just our teaching staff, but staff across all other departments. I think a lot of our support staff that are essential to making the system work and critical to making sure that we can provide teachers with the support that they need are also individuals that we're competing with other industries. We're competing with new major employers coming into town as well. And I just hope that as we continue to take a look at how we address the labor shortage as one of the larger employers in town, along with every other industry, we are able to look at our staff holistically and make sure that we're able to remain competitive and understand that in order for the system to work, it really is everyone working in cohesion. So I know that just at the elementary alone, there's 38 paras needed. I think in maintenance and operations, there was about 20 custodians, if I remember correctly, shared with us yesterday. Secondary, same amount of paras, if not more. Nutrition services and some other positions across drivers, nutrition service workers. Those are some of the positions that we're really looking to fill, hopefully sooner rather than later. And that's going to be a big priority for us as we start the school year.
Thank you. Okay, that will bring us to the business portion of our agenda. And first up, consent agenda. Just assuming. Look for a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I move approval of consent agenda with the HR addendum.
Thank you, Robin. Seconded by Nikki. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we have approval of the consent agenda. Now we'll move on to our business section. First up tonight is the committee and liaison assignments. That comes to you in memo number 11. Yes, Jim.
I'd like to move that the committee and liaison partnerships assignments that are presented in memo number 11 be approved.
Okay, motion on the floor by Jim.
Second.
Seconded by Seth. Any discussion? Yes, Robin.
I have not talked to anybody about this, but I would like to amend the motion and I'll first explain why I am amending the motion. I do feel that due to her public health background, Naimal Day would be a great Fargo Cast public health representative. If she would accept that appointment, I will make an amendment to appoint her to that. But I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Would that be something that you would be accepting of?
Thank you so much for offering me that. I mean, it was not my first choice. It was community development. It was my first choice because I feel like there's a lot to learn there regarding diversity, about our community, how it is, how we can be able to help each other out. and in the community in general. And because a lot of people do not know what's going on in the community, that was one of the reasons why I chose the community development. And then plus there are 12 of them. There's no diversity too in there. So it's really a great thing for me to be on that. But since you said Fargo has a public health, I'll be honored to do that.
I would like to amend the motion to move Naimal Day to Fargo Cast Public Health Board and remove Robin Nelson, if there is a sec. Go ahead, sorry, not leading the meeting.
Yes. Okay. So just so I understand then, Namal, your liaison assignments would be both the Leave Bank Committee and Board of Health? You're willing to serve on two?
Well, I guess I got elected, so might well get it done.
Because I told people this is like a logic problem trying to figure this out, but I had put Robin on two liaisons because she's only serving on two committees when the rest of us are generally serving on three. That was my way of thinking. So I just want to make sure you're comfortable with that workload.
Thank you for asking. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, Robin.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Robin and seconded by Jim for an amendment. Any further discussion? Does anyone need to have that read one more time, or we're clear what we're voting on? Okay, Anne Marie, I'll have you call the roll.
Christensen? Yes. Clark?
Yes.
Day?
Yes.
Gullickson?
Yes.
Holden?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Berkland?
Yes.
Newman?
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on committee and liaison assignments? Okay, so we will now vote on the original motion to approve, motion to approve this. Anne Marie, you can call the roll.
Clark?
Yes.
Day?
Yes.
Gullickson?
Yes.
Holden?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Berkland?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Newman?
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. This comes to us in memo number 12. I'm happy to read this, although you all have this in your board packet. I might look to you, Seth, or I guess I'll look to the board for further discussion, I suppose.
I'll just start by making a motion so we can have discussion. I move that the Fargo Board of Education rescind the action it took on March 22nd, 2022, in which it voted to begin each regular meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance immediately following the call to order.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Okay, seconded by Greg. Thank you. Any discussion? Back to you, Seth.
First, I'd like to take the opportunity to make a couple of points of clarification, and kind of based on some emails that I got. The reason that I gave for the governance committee to request that this item is on the agenda are not the reasons I think the decision should be rescinded. They are the reasons that I think that warranted further discussion of the topic, and I just want to make that clear. My reasoning for wanting the decision rescinded is based solely on philosophy and policy, and also based on some emails that I got as well. I also want to make the clarification that this motion has absolutely nothing to do with removing the pledge from schools or the classroom. This is strictly our board meetings and rescinding the previous decision. So with that, it's to the best of my understanding that the March 22nd decision is not in the best interest of the district, and for two reasons. I would say the board reciting the pledge runs counter to our district's philosophy. Given that the word God in the text of the Pledge of Allegiance is capitalized and Jim had brought this up in our previous discussion of this, the text is clearly referring to the Judeo-Christian God. And therefore, it does not include any other faiths, such as Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, all of which are practiced throughout the country and among our staff and students at FPS. It also includes agnostics and atheists, and I think the exclusion of these faiths or lack thereof within the pledge automatically makes the Pledge of Allegiance a non-inclusionary act in itself. So for the board to begin each meeting by engaging in a non-inclusionary act runs counter to our philosophy at FPS, and I'm just going to read an excerpt from our website, from our diversity, inclusion, and equity statement. Quote, education is better where schools are composed of students, teachers, and families drawn from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds, cultures, quote unquote, races, ethnicities, religions, and sexual orientations. Yet a diverse school community alone is not enough. Inclusion matters. We strive to create a truly inclusive school community in each building and across the FPS district. We want our schools to be places where students and adults know they are welcomed, supported, and their faces, voices, and experience are reflected and valued. We believe that the work of inclusion is the responsibility held by each of us and done for all of us, person to person, every day, end quote. That is from our website. The board can't simultaneously fully support this statement, our district's philosophy, or the work of our Department of DEI to its fullest and begin each of its meetings with a non-inclusionary act. The two things are mutually exclusive. Second, the board reciting the pledge, I would say, violates board policy. There's text within the Pledge of Allegiance that is just, it's simply not true. Almost all, if not all of our religions on earth are practiced here in the United States. And the statement that we are one nation under God is the Judeo-Christian God, as the pledge clearly states by capitalizing the word God, is simply an untrue statement. We are one nation under many or no gods. It is also an indisputable fact, and it's a fact that I hope we all can agree on, that not all US citizens have liberty and justice, which is stated in the pledge, therefore making the line, one nation with liberty and justice for all, an untrue statement. Devin, our favorite policy, GP3E, subsection 2 reads, school board members should be honest. I don't think the board can simultaneously fully adhere to GP3E, subsection 2, and recite a pledge that contains untrue statements. I think those two things are also mutually exclusive. Now, I'm fully aware that the Pledge of Allegiance, what it means to a lot of people, and I completely respect that. And for many, I know that it's an affirmation of love and loyalty to our country. It's patriotic, it's sacred, it holds a special place in people's hearts. And it also acknowledges the sacrifices that people have made for our country. However, I also respect and acknowledge the fact that for many others, it's a constant reminder of a lack of liberty and an affirmation of a lack of justice and a constant feeling of exclusion. It's our job as a board, along with many other things, to embrace and defend our district's philosophy and adhere to our own policies. And having the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance on our board meeting agendas prevents us from doing both of those things to the fullest. I also want to make an important distinction that I'm not saying that the Pledge of Allegiance itself or pledging allegiance to one's country is a bad thing, and that the act in and of itself runs counter to our philosophy and policy. I'm saying that there is text within the pledge that when recited by this board runs counter to our philosophy and our policy. And that's why I brought this to governance. That's why I made the motion today, and that's why I think we should rescind this.
Thank you, Seth. Any further comments or discussion from any board members? Yes, Nima.
Thank you so much, President Newman, and thank you, Seth. Um, as a child that who came to this country when I was 10 years old, um, I heard so much about the great country that we have, and that is the United States. I don't know if many of you parents know that in our Fargo Moorhead communities, especially in Fargo, we have 94 different languages within the school system. All of us represent different background, different religions, and I cannot force somebody to be Christian like me, because where I came from, I'm a Christian, and my uncles and a couple of my cousins, and actually one of my close cousin, actually, he's in the Air Force right now. And my uncle, he just came back from Iraq. So he fought for those people that who don't speak. So that's one of the reasons why this country is great. And we need to be able to respect each other. It doesn't matter what it is. What we're here for is for our children, for their future. That's what we should be protecting. Not about us being here discussing thing that we should be able to, let me take that one back. To me, as a child, again, I seen so much worse than this. There's so many things that many of you have not encountered, which some of you might have. But definitely pledge cannot be one of them. Because I know that in the United States system, the dollar that you have or the quarter that you have, even the little penny that we have, it said, God, we trust. So if you believe in God in your heart and you read your Bible every night and you know that he loves you very much, there shouldn't be any issues here. Because our veteran fought for us to be here, and that means all of us. It doesn't matter you stand or you sit down. What matters is we live together as a diverse communities, and that's what matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Nima. Any other comments or discussion? I have some comments, but yes, go ahead, Robin. I'll wait until. Okay. I offer the floor to you. I was going to say my.
Thank you for the comments. Thank you for your thoughtfulness. I know this is a very important issue for you, Seth. There are different interpretations out there of some of our policies, and I would be one that I will open by saying I won't support your motion respectfully. I really appreciated how after this was first passed, the entire board stood up and faced the flag, but nobody's forcing you to say anything. Bringing this up now, I think it created adversity, or I'm sorry, probably some discord when it was brought up and some heartache for some, but I would also say that it is creating just as much as if not more discord by bringing it up now. I think we need to focus on our kids and our education. I think this discussion respectfully is a distraction. please give me the opportunity to stand up at the beginning of the meetings and say the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would respectfully ask that you just don't participate, but don't deny me that right. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Anyone else? Okay, I will just make a few comments. I actually was absent for this initial vote, unfortunately. So, when examining this issue, it's clear there are strong opinions on both sides of this, and I really thank all of the public speakers tonight for coming. This is clearly an issue that touches people. Personally, I don't feel strongly either way. I love my country, and this has nothing to do with my loyalty to the United States or my background. I really respect the electoral process of government that got us all here to even have this discussion, but I also acknowledge that it's not perfect. And America has many things that we need to work on, including in our schools. I'm also well aware, as Namal pointed out, that our district is made up of a vast array of diverse people, some of whom are not citizens of the United States and some of whom speak other languages. Given how politically charged and divisive this issue has become, I'm just not sure that reciting the Pledge of Allegiance is a useful way to begin every one of our board meetings. I would much prefer that we open the meetings with a shared statement of purpose that would that would bring us all together to do the work of the board. I agree this seems like a distraction. Perhaps, one stating our core values as a district, which we all say is to educate and empower all the students to succeed. Rather than starting the meeting on opposing sides of an issue, I'd rather us start by saying something unifying if we are going to say anything at all. So those are my feelings. I'd look to any other comments or discussion from board members. Yes.
Coming on. Is it? Oh, okay.
It's hard to see.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you. I just appreciate the comments that are being shared so far, and I think when I was looking through this issue, I think Seth, you brought up some really good points, and I wanted to share that we are a governing board, and when we were taking these positions and taking the oath of office and reading through all this information, we're very much focused on student achievement, and I don't actually think that saying the pledge contributes to that. I very much would agree probably more with your idea, is that we could ground ourselves in some type of mission or purpose that grounds us in student achievement, and I don't think the pledge actually does that for us at the beginning of the meeting. And I do feel that there's certainly some distraction around this. And I think that by supporting Seth, I feel like we are undoing something that should not have been done in the first place.
Thank you, Katie. Anyone else? Yes, Melissa.
Thank you, President Newman. And thanks for all the thoughtful discussion. I really appreciate the time that people have taken into this and our community members. And I think it's clearly something that people have put a lot of thought and effort to. During my day job, my one and only client is the United States of America, and I deeply love our country, and there has been no greater professional honor than to be a lawyer for the United States and to serve its interests and to protect its interests. That said, one of my favorite things about the United States and being a United States citizen is that we can each honor and dissent in ways that are meaningful to us, what we like and do not like about our amazing democracy. And I like this concept of an idea that unifies us rather than divides us. And for me, the fabric of our democracy is strengthened through its diversity, because we can learn so much from each other and become unified through our differences. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that has been seconded. Anne Marie, I would look to you to call the roll.
Day. I'm sorry, Anne Marie, could you read the motion one more time?
Absolutely. The motion on the floor is that the Fargo Board of Education rescind the action it took on March 22nd, 2022, in which it voted to begin each regular meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance immediately following the call to order. Day? No. Gullickson? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Nikki.
I was hoping it wasn't second.
What's this one?
No.
Holden,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Nelson,
No.
Berkland,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Newman.
Yes. Motion passes.
Anne
Yes,
Marie,
yes, Nemo?
I kind of messed up somewhere here because I thought that my mic was not on. But anyway, never mind.
I have you recorded as a no.
Okay, it's supposed to be yes, actually.
Do we need to recall the roll, Anne Marie?
I'd be happy to if you'd want me to.
Sure.
Or is everyone comfortable recording her vote as a yes, or do we need to officially redo that? Just want to make sure we're following policy. Okay, everyone's okay? All right, thank
So we
you.
have 7 yeses and 2 nos.
That's what I had, yes. Thank you, Namal, for the clarification. Okay, motion passes. We will move on to board reports. We will move to the committee liaison and correspondence reports. Katie, I will start with you.
What are you asking me for?
Do you have anything to
sorry.
report?
Oh, yeah, I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Sure, what I will share is that I have met with 2 of my liaison schools, the principals. So I toured South High and Explorer Academy, and I will be meeting with the principal for Lewis and Clark tomorrow.
Excellent, thank you. Greg?
I have visited one of my liaison schools this week. It was a pretty good visit. It actually affirmed a lot of stuff that Grant mentioned in his FEA report about all of the different things that our educators do during their summer quote unquote break. They are quite busy, and I am looking forward to the picnic tomorrow.
Thanks, Greg. Nikki?
Thank you, President Newman. I don't have a lot to report because we've kind of been on hold. We were meeting before the election, and now I'm looking forward to welcoming new members and taking off, and so here we go. And then, yes, tomorrow the staff picnic. That should be great. I always enjoy visiting and engaging with our staff, so that's super. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Excuse me. Earlier today, I had a SEC board meeting retreat where we looked at our annual budget, made some decisions on innovation funds, and started the process of developing a new strategic plan for the organization. And I attended governance. I think that was it.
Thank you. Robin?
July 20th, I attended a United Way Education Impact Panel, a couple of Chamber Public Policy Committees. I was at the work session with all of you. You didn't report that. Part of the board training. And we will be looking, wear comfortable shoes tomorrow, board members, because this is not relaxing for board members tomorrow. We are here to wait on and really appreciate our staff. So you will be running and you will get your steps in, so no need for the treadmill tomorrow. We will, since the GAC committee has been formed, we'll work on an initial date, and I anticipated this might go this way, so I am getting ready for the legislative session already.
We appreciate that, Robin. Thank you. Seth?
Yes, attended our work session and our training session and called into governance from a pretty empty campground, which was kind of nice. And other than that, I'll be seeing everybody at the picnic tomorrow.
Great. Nemo?
Thank you, President Newman. I have attended 2 of the school board liaison that I have been assigned in. I went on Thursday, July 21st at 9 a.m. to visit North Fargo, which I had a tremendous meeting with the principal, and I meet a couple of staff. Today is actually August 9. I had to meet with Laurie this morning and just me walking down the halls, her showing me around the school, just seeing so many different flags from all over different country. It just remind me of just how grateful we are in these communities and how we should embrace our diversity because she's just amazing, tremendous, tremendous principal. She made me welcome at home, believe it. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Melissa?
Yeah, so I have met with one of my school liaisons, Lincoln Elementary School. I met with Principal Kaiser yesterday. It was really fun and brought back a lot of memories for me. And I will be meeting with our Principal Franklin at Carl Ben Eielson this Friday. And then next week, we'll be seeing Principal Schulteis from Lewis and Clark. So, or I'm sorry, Ed Clapp. So it's been nice to get to know some of our administrators and get into our schools. So that's been great.
Great. What was that, your actual elementary school?
So I should have gone to Lincoln. I only went there 1 year, but my mother was a principal at Lincoln. So I kind of felt like I grew up there and got to see her old office, and it was pretty neat. So,
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Okay, thank you all. I will briefly give you a president's report. On July 15th, I met with Kim Rieger, FEA president, and it was my understanding we are working to finalize the plan for negotiations training to complete our MOU. We were hoping to meet again soon. I was unaware the date had been finalized, but I mean, I know that was the one we were discussing, Grant. So I was hoping we could meet again soon before we ironed out the final details of that. But going forward, Kim and I talked about meeting the first Monday of every month. So I look forward to that. As was stated, we had the school board work session and our board work session. We spent a lot of time working on the committee and liaison assignments. We had governance, I did a media interview, and then I had my individual meeting with Dr. Gandhi. So that is all I have to report. That brings us to affirm our next regular meeting date, which will be August 23rd. And it is 6:47, and we are adjourned.